Welcome to our 9th episode of Hunting for Suspenders and Stilettos.
The live where I'm losing my memory here. Someone has to help me.
We explore the edges.
We explore the edges of leadership.
In other words, we explore like making mistakes.
Hey, leadership, right?
Right.
It's
Part of
about
leadership, exactly.
Okay, so my name is Anne and I'm based in the Netherlands and I'm French.
And my name is Huda. I'm calling from Dubai.
And je m'appelle John. Je suis en France en ce moment.
Nice. And I'm Sarah, and I'm calling from Toronto in Canada. And today we are talking about energies in leadership, and specifically feminine energies and masculine energies in leadership.
Yeah. So how do we define feminine and masculine energies?
Haha.
Okay,
shall we start?
And we're not talking about men and women. We're talking about the energy that we have inside of us.
And we can agree or disagree with this. But typically, a masculine energy is the energy of decision, assertiveness, competition, independence, and you can add more, right?
Yeah.
Firm.
And then contrast that with the energy of the feminine, which is typically characterized as being nurturing, being sensitive, really thriving in connection and understanding.
Yeah, well, actually, what comes to me as you say those things is an embodiment of it. So with masculine energy having this sense of like direction, so we can even we can embody it like this, and the feminine having more of a holding to it.
It's more like this, right? Bringing things together.
Yeah. Nice. So why is this so important to talk about it?
What comes to mind? I mean, maybe the easy thing is it's really we can transcend the typical discourse of male female, and go beyond. How can we bring them together? Those energies might be a prism through which we can bridge the two, the gender conversation.
So you mean in talking about it like from an energy perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's more about getting some awareness of that we have different parts of ourselves and that we want to use every part of ourselves and be purposeful of it.
Yeah, so adding to that we all have our natural ways of being and strengths, and the part of it is the awareness of what are those strengths, where do we come from most naturally, and how do we not limit ourselves by, especially if we confuse the feminine and masculine energy with genders and say, well, because I'm a man I can't be that, or because I'm a woman I can't be that, but to look at how we can expand our range into all of those energies so that we can be most effective, because we can bring what's needed in the moment, in the situation, to be most effective.
And I love what you're saying, John, and I think it's really like a really nice trampoline or stepping stone to even widen the conversation. it would, when we bring those energies, is also about, for me, how can we explore the leadership, the spectrum of the leadership traits beyond any label or box or whatever, for the sake of being effective, being adaptable, being inclusive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and what I love about what you're saying is that traditionally the concept of male versus female, in quotations, is rigid by definition. It's binary by definition. So why not take it and say, well, no, if these are a set of qualities that are available to all of us, right? It becomes an opportunity to widen our range as individuals, as leaders, as Huda was saying. So I love that idea, because it's really taking a concept that can traditionally be used to box people in, and in many ways is outdated, this idea of like a rigid male and female, and saying, well, no, we all get to be all of these things and more. So let's sort of
yeah, and I see we were not hearing you very well, Sarah, so but anyway,
really?
yeah, there's a bit of a delay, just so you're aware.
Oh, okay.
And that's interesting, because when we were preparing this, we were thinking of, okay, what are the archetypes of, and actually that's what we don't want. But I mean, just for the sake of it, just presenting a little bit, for me, archetypes of masculine energy can be people like Churchill or Angela Merkel, for example. And who are the types that you see for feminine energy, for example?
Grace Kelly,
yeah. Mother Teresa, for example, I would say. And then there are people that embody very well both, like for me, like on top of my head was straight away Barack Obama, So and he's a great leader. So he's a great example of leading from a very balanced point of view. And then other people like Merkel or Mother Teresa have led other things in a different way, but and they had their own balance in a way.
And when you say balance, yeah, that triggers me all the time. I would like to offer another word: a whole leadership. Right? We taking in everything, and we're creating from everything, right? The balance feels a bit unstable to me.
And at the same time, for me, we are. I love that term of balance, because I think like at any time, it can change, and it can be, maybe in a certain type of situation, we have more of a part of us that is expressed, and then in another part is another part that is expressed. So. But I think both are valid. Huh? Let's agree that both are valid.
I'll give another way of thinking about it, which is it's rather than a balance, it's a navigation. There's these different qualities we can bring at different times, and we navigate between them. We're not looking for some long-term balance. We're looking for a dynamic shifting between not the two, it's a full spectrum, but we're looking for this dynamic shifting between the different qualities of leadership to be most effective in any given situation with any given person or team.
Yeah. We're not looking for someone to be 50-50.
Right.
No, and I think not even 30, 70 or any of these numbers. I think I have a metaphor I have two metaphors maybe I can offer here. As one is, it's a supermarket, right? And you go and shop. What is you have a recipe, you want to do some delicious something, and then you just jump in and go and collect whatever, bring to life whatever trait you need for whatever you're doing, right? And another one is dancing. There is always that thing, right? And So moving, tango and whatever it is, where you find that movement, it's rhythmic, it's adaptive, the music keeps changing, and so is our leadership. How does that land on you?
So I'm also curious about how is this in our current world, and also how can we cultivate an approach where we can choose and pick what we want, you know?
I just would like to attract your attention on a question from Leo, who asked, why now? Why now do we talk so much about feminine and masculine? Thank you, Leo.
Hi, Leo. Yeah, great. Well, that's an interesting question.
Why now?
Well, I think we were talking also about, I think there are more in the past, that some kind of energies were more adapted, I think. And I think more and more we value to have all of those energies. It makes me think of what people like Jacinda Ardern, for example, has raised. She was critiqued for not being aggressive enough or assertive enough, and then I think because she was empathetic, and so I think people like this are raising the awareness about that.
Yeah, and I think the complexity of the state of the world right now and the kinds of issues that we're grappling with, and the exposure that we have to what's happening in the world, we've always had a need for like a leader, for leaders who can really encompass both, that have that whole leadership style where they have a connection to both the masculine and the feminine energy styles. But more than ever, I think that will create more effective leadership, right? Because different situations are so complex now. We need different leadership approaches. We need to know how to integrate both.
There is also, I believe, to just answer to the now, why now? There is a shift. We cannot deny this. There is a shift. Women are taking more space, and they are given more responsibility. Maybe not as much or as fast as we would like to see, but there is this shift, right? So does it mean that they need to renounce to that feminine part of them to graduate to a higher and higher leadership, to be invited to the boards of this world? I think it's a question that this is how I see it. Why now? Why now? This question is, I think, as the doors open more and more, it doesn't mean we have to renounce to the typical traditional trait associated with female femininity, right?
Yeah.
So it's more like keeping and adding versus dropping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also think it's a question for the ages. I don't think it's, I think throughout history, it must have been true that the best leaders were the ones who had the greatest range and were able to, bring what was needed in any situation. So we can sometimes, I think, get a bit myopic about like, oh, this is really important right now. I'm sure it's always been important.
Yeah.
And also to be very clear, and to actually, it's also because it was the week where we were celebrating International Women's Day. So just as a short answer,
Yeah. Well, that's what triggered it, right?
And so,
and can we come back? I think we explored a bit, but I would like also to come back to your question, the very first question. Why is it so important? Right? Because, I mean, it's a conversation that we are creating something and we would like to leave something. A key idea for me is by bringing this, actually, there are two movements for me. Is the creation of safe spaces. You can talk about a safe leadership, where I loved your metaphor, John. Direction, commitment, drive, action, and let's take everybody with us. How can we bring everybody? But also, when we have this, is innovation, creativity. We're creating a space for them, right? So it's the integration of all those things that, for me, is important when we marry the action and the integration, I would say, almost.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk about a little bit of the philosophy of the yin and yang, because we talked about that, and so that's not just now; it's forever that this philosophy is existing. And for me, this is about tapping into the full spectrum of the potential of the human, so using those two energy and balancing it out all the time. And what are your thoughts about this philosophy and how it can help our leaders to tap into a bit of both?
Yeah, well, I think so. Just to pull it back very, very briefly, in Chinese philosophy, the yin and the yang, the yin refers to the female energy, and then the yang refers to the male energy. And I think most viewers are probably familiar with the symbol and the balanced nature, and how there's a little bit on each side. So there's a sort of the dominant, but then there's a little bit of the other energy within it, the little dot. For me, I mean, I can speak about my own experience, and I know, we're all coaches and we've done a lot of work ourselves to understand our own natural tendencies. So I can offer up my experience with my own sort of male versus female energies. And I know we have sort of different combos, even within the four smiling faces on this screen right now, that I'm very much a dominant female, like led by dominant female energy. And that was certainly my default. And it is still my default. And at the same time, I know when life, the universe, different coaches, different people in my life brought up to me, hey, you actually have some masculine energy. Well, they didn't necessarily use those terms, right? But now within the context of this, but you're actually really ambitious. And I remember thinking, I am? I had never really assigned that attribute to myself right now. You're actually really goal-oriented. You can really get things done. You're really productive. And how would it serve you to really lean into those qualities? So I see some of those qualities as also really a necessary part of myself and have been really integral to my development as a leader myself. So I can see now that I encompass, my whole leadership is really a combination of both. So I guess all of this by way to say that, how does the yin and yang, how can that support leaders? It's like, we'll know kind of what your yin and yang looks like, and you can get feedback. You can challenge yourself or be challenged by others to really explore the other side.
Yeah, for me, for example, my tendency, I think before coaching, my tendency was very much, before coaching and actually when I was still working, but when I studied coaching, I started to be very feminine and like only care a lot, and understanding how wanting to understand how people feel, etc. And I was less about the drive and the objectives, and I think knowing what I know now, I think like I would have loved to like rebalance it a little bit more. And I think I definitely in my coaching business, running a coaching business really requires a lot of I think we require a lot of empathy and listening and of feminine energy, you know, when we are coaching, and at the same time running our business requires some drive as well to move forward. So I think it's a great example of having to balance it out, in my view. What about you, Uda and John?
I was just thinking as you were talking, a different perspective on this is I feel like I've got quite a broad range of both the feminine and the masculine energy, and my challenge tends to be trusting in the value of those.
Yeah.
So that's just so as something for the audience to when we talk about these different qualities and energies, is to notice where you have some judgment about, do you judge people who are like really assertive and directive, or do you judge people who are compassionate, empathetic, and just notice like where you've got judgments and where that might be a place for you to grow, and start with the awareness of where you are. What's your home base? What is your natural energy that you can bring and really lean on as you explore expanding your range?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Wow. And I'd like to bring a different perspective. I worked in a male-dominated industry. And I don't know which one is, you know, what is the egg and the chicken, the first one, I don't know. So, but as a student, I was told by an economics teacher, you are a very virile woman. That was quite shocking, but I can see that, right? Taking action, getting things done. And it's what drove me most, probably attracted me in joining, becoming an investment banker, right? So I could find a lot of myself in there. But I think maybe I went to one extreme and forgot the other one. So I was going, I mean, everybody was I did have a suit with skirts and high heels, just for the small story. And I was very feminine in appearance, but no one carried my bag, no one opened the door for me, nor would I accept, by the way. And I needed to fit. And I think this is the danger, is that need to fit to a conglomerate of people who are not naturally, you belong to naturally. So I went out with the boys, I went to strip bars with the boys, and I couldn't recognize myself after a while. So,
I do believe really, Uda, because I'm also mindful of the time, that it is really the trap. And so what kind of tips would we like to offer to the
so this is where I was coming to. I think what is important is not to forget this whole who we are, right?
Yes.
Again, labels, judgment drawn, where we feel that, you know, that not in our stomach, that in our heart, we say, oh, what is he doing? What is she doing? This is the time to stop and start reflecting, but also of who we are when it starts feeling uncomfortable. I think it's time to just have a big deep breath and say, okay, what am I doing here? What are my choices? What is it that I'm doing deliberately? That's what I have to say. There is no solution. There is only reflection.
Yeah. What else would you like to add to close the call, Sarah and John?
Remember that the whole range is available to you.
Yeah.
And every day, just because you acted one way yesterday, every day is a fresh start.
let's leave it there, because I offered a tip and that sounded like a great spot to finish. Good point to finish on.
Maybe I want to add something. For me, it's about compassion to others and compassion to ourselves, and yeah, that's what it is about. Well, thank you very much, and see you then for our 10th episode.
Finally, yeah.
Finally the 10th.
All
All right.
right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.